respect me too. So I just stuck my hand out and said, hey, my name is Robin, and I don't love being invisible.
I love you. Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am Lisa Tarkington, your host of this podcast. If you found yourself hitting play on this podcast, it means it was meant for you. My goal is to help empower and guide you to become a better version of yourself through conversation, advice, and tips that are real, vulnerable, and authentic. I am excited to have you join this journey with me. So let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Confident Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Tarkington. And as always, it's such an honor to be in this host seat. It's exciting to be talking about confidence, about self-love, and all of the aspects of becoming the best version of yourself. 2024 is underway, and it's already been pretty exciting. I won't lie, it's been pretty chill so far in the beginning of the year. I'm hoping that it sticks this way. When this podcast goes live, I actually will be in New Zealand on my honeymoon. And I cannot wait to tell you guys all about that experience. I think I've shared already on this podcast, but if I haven't, a lot of people have words of the year. Maybe their word is ease or peace or confidence. Mine is discipline. So this year, my word is discipline because I really want to make sure that I am prioritizing things. I'm being disciplined on my procrastination. And one thing that is really funny when I thought of this word was my husband, I was sharing it with him, and he goes, "You are the most disciplined person I've ever met." And I started laughing. I said, I think I am in some aspects of my life, right? But overall, there are certain things that I like to, I'll just do that tomorrow. I'll just do that tomorrow. And then that pile continues to happen. And I've been practicing this for the last couple of weeks. And I will tell you, my house has never been cleaner. Things have never been picked up more. And just like my inbox is even, I only have 2 things in my inbox right now. And I will tell you, I ended the year with probably 100 emails. So I'm really trying to practice this, and I'm already seeing kind of like this weight lifted. So whatever your word is for the year, even if you haven't picked one, I highly recommend just kind of setting the intention that you want for the year. It is so powerful. And I cannot wait to continue to tell you guys all about how discipline has been part of my life. So with that, we are going to dive into today's episode, which is all about empowering you to refuel guilt-free and to have a confident recharge. And I'm so excited to bring on a guest that's going to be talking about that with me, which is Robin Shear. Robin is an international keynote speaker, joy coach, and best-selling author. I met Robin honestly, probably 6 months into 2023. I was starting to dive more into becoming a speaker. And when you're starting something new, you're meeting new folks, you're kind of like, okay, I need to find my people. I need to find people that I can relate to, that will mentor me, that will become my friend. And I will say the minute I met Robin, it was, when you get that feeling of like, you're home, welcome home. Aww. I got that right away with Robin. And so Robin, thank you for coming on the number one podcast in my heart, the Confident Podcast. So I'd love if you would share a little bit about yourself with our audience.
Sure. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I mean, I knew that it would be a nice intro because I wrote it, but I didn't expect that other piece. Oh, it's been a joy, being your friend and seeing you flourish into that public speaking space. And like you said, I'm a joy coach, and I'm just on a mission to meet people wherever they find themselves, in whatever circumstances they find themselves, and help them to understand how joy is possible now. And I have a public speaking platform of my own, and I love to get out in front of groups of people who are normal, who are regular real life people, who have life that's even a little bit messy and want to know how. And that's what I'm all about.
I love that. And so I have to know though, why joy coach?
Yeah.
Like, what made you want to become that?
Yeah, honestly, personal experience. As I knew that I was moving into life coaching, and I took a look back on all of the ways that I had served up to that point, it felt kind of disjointed. And in some cases, I sort of felt like I had failed, like I didn't stick out one path very long. And, people will get a job and stay for 30 years, and I sort of meandered. But when I looked back on all those little pieces, the one thing, the thread that united all of it was the impact that joy had on each of the populations that I had had the privilege of serving. So, and these were some people in some really tough situations, and they weren't coming to me for joy, and I didn't know that's what they were receiving either until, one day in prayer, I realized this is what it's always been about. I see it. I know it. I'm going to share it.
And I love that became clear to you,
Yep.
right? So I think a lot of times we're all on this path of like, I just want to know my purpose. I just want to know all of these things.
Yep.
And it takes time. And then it sounds like you had that moment.
Yep.
So when you had that moment, tell us about that. I got to know. I love hearing the, I got it now.
Yeah, it was in a moment in my sunroom, and I was in coaching school. I'm certified by the International Coaching Federation. We were at a point where we had to decide what direction we were going to go with our coaching. And all of my friends and colleagues knew exactly, and I didn't. And I felt kind of unsure, and my word for the year is pray. And I know that a lot of my decisions aren't starting there. And this was one that did. And as I was praying, I could just sense there was no doubt that it was about joy and the need for it in the world. And this was October of 2019. And I remember in prayer kind of saying to God, are you kidding me? Like, nobody does that. I don't know anybody who's a joy coach. That's not even a thing. Who's going to take this serious? And I'd like to say, I had this epiphany and I went off into the sunset. But it took a couple of months of just kind of wrestling with whether or not it's legitimate and will it make a difference? Can I take the stuff that I saw in practice and share it on an individual coaching level or from stage? What is there to say about it? It was kind of an untapped resource. So here we are.
I love that. And I had no idea that you were an ICF coach.
Yes.
I love that you are because I actually just took my exam a couple months ago.
Yay!
And I passed. And I share that because when I meet other people that are ICF coaches, I'm always like, thank you for spending all of those hours and practice and being ethical and learning the competencies because I did not know how much work it was going to be. But it now is so important. Now, when I look at coaches and I know when they're ICF trained, I'm like, you are the best of the best.
Yeah.
Because of all the work that goes into it. I mean, we have to submit an audio and a written exam. I remember taking my written exam, first exam I've taken since college. And I'm like, I hope I pass because I knew all the information, but it's back to that exam.
Yeah.
And as a coach, you teach a lot about mindset, right? Like always shifting. I did so much mindset work on that moment of my life because I knew that if I wanted to do something, I wanted to change lives, I was going to have to shift my mindset to do that. And so it's fun when you get to coach yourself.
It is. I received a lot of coaching, and I know that you did as well, and you realized the value in it. And in my case, I mean, as yours, I wanted to know that what I was doing was going to help. I mean, people have said, oh, you've been coaching all along anyway, make it official. And that was my version of making it official.
I love that. So congrats.
Thanks,
I have to share
that.
You too. Thank you. So today we're talking all about kind of getting that recharge, refueling yourself guilt-free. And when I was thinking about this topic today, and we had discussed it a little bit beforehand, a lot of people that are the ones struggling with refueling themselves, especially guilt-free. That's like the biggest word. And recharging that confidence are people that are the givers. And when I say givers, I'm talking about the people that are service people that are giving to everybody. They might even be the moms of the world. And I'm just picturing the mom like handing the dinners out to everybody and eating in the corner, right? Because you're continuously giving to people. And so, when we use the word depleted giver, like what does that mean to you? And so that people can kind of resonate with that.
Yeah, I mean, the depleted givers are the people that I love to interact with the most because I have been one. And I'd like to say I've only been one once, but, we learn the things sometimes several times before, those lessons take root. But that's the stuff that you can share from. And so that's why those are my people. But, it is the people who care, who are raised to think of others first. They often work in religious settings or they're public servants of some kind, a lot of healthcare professionals. Like you said, parents, definitely. Anybody who would put the needs of someone else before their own.
Yeah.
These are people who they got that message, and they should. This is a very good message, but so often they go so far as to just ignore their own needs because this is their priority. And I have to question, what does it say about our view of ourselves when we look at our own to-do lists and we're not even on the page?
Ooh.
So those are my people, because if they aren't reached, if they aren't recharged and refueled, and if they don't have joy to give from, they are going to burn out. They are going to be depleted, and they could leave their positions, they could leave their callings, and go and serve in a way that isn't really how they were, designed to serve.
I love when you said, if you're looking at your to-do list and you're not on it, that's like, I'm going to say the word red flag, red flag right there of having that awareness then to do something about it.
Yeah.
And so say someone is noticing that. And I've also would say like depleted givers struggle with joy sometimes too.
Oh, they do.
And so what would you, someone that's struggling with that, like the assumption is you're teaching this because you've been through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so take us back to when that happened for you and like how you got out of that.
For sure. So the short version is I was working at a church. I was a youth director, youth pastor, depending on the terminology, and I loved it. I couldn't get enough. And I dove in to try to build a program. And we started with a handful of kids, and it was an exciting time of growth. And I started making a list after a list after a list of all the things we wanted to do and all the different ways that we could grow a program. And, I was thinking about it day and night, and my phone was ringing off the hook constantly. It wasn't uncommon to get phone calls in the middle of the night when somebody died and a child, a teenager needed someone to talk to, or, someone was struggling at Christmas time. My phone was always ringing, and I embraced it because I was a giver. That was what I was born to do. And so many people, warned me, you've got to slow it down. You've got to take a break. You have to take care of yourself. I wish I had $1 for every time I said the phrase, I'm a giver. Like, you don't know me. Thank you. But I'm different. I'm different. And I should have known from the start that what I was doing was like categorizing myself in a level that was untouchable, in a level that was, in a way there was a pride thing going on. I prided myself on giving and being present. And I was involved in the community, and I was a leader, and I was that person people went to. And I started to notice that all these lists were hard to look at. I was like, I would look at all these things, all these ideas, and I couldn't find any that I felt were possible. I was looking for the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, because my own ability was shrinking. I didn't realize that was what was going on, and I started dreading those phone calls. I didn't know if I could help somebody. I was depleted and didn't want to admit it, and I was afraid that this identity that I had built up, it was going to end. It was going to be gone, and I kept pushing, ignoring the warnings until one day I pulled into the parking lot at church, and I was about to get out of the car, and I realized I had no business going in that building. I was so empty on the inside and so fake on the outside, smiling and encouraging people all the while feeling like such a fraudulent human being. And I knew I had to take care of me. It was about not being on my own list and about ignoring all that stuff and realizing, dang it, they were right.
Yes.
I'm not different than anybody else. And neither are the people in my audiences. So I literally missed 6 weeks of work. I couldn't go in, and I had to get professional help. I had to learn about what mattered to me, but also the fact that I was worthy. And that's really what I dig into from stage is, let's take a look at how we value our own worth. What do we bring to the table? Is there value in it? And why are we okay just blowing that off? It's time to take a look at ourselves as people who matter and who contribute, and treating ourselves as such, right? People with needs. If I'm going to contribute, I'm going to meet my own needs so that I can continue to contribute.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying all of that. As you were talking, I just related so much to all of that. And I think a lot of people can, right? We hear the people. So I always say, and I was literally just talking about this with my husband last night because I was getting frustrated that sometimes when I tell someone something, they'll call me 6 months later and be like, Lisa, I just started journaling. It's been the game changer. And I'm like, it's okay. I've just been saying that for 6 months, right?
Forever.
But they needed to hear it at that moment. And so it sounds like people had been telling you things, right? And you're like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. But then you got there, right? But I want to point out that we never want for anybody that we work with to get to the point. Like I was on bed rest, like at one point, you had 6 weeks that you were taking off of work. Like that's not what we want for the givers of the world. Like that is not joy. That is not fun. That is the moment when you're like, I have to start over. You literally feel like you're at the bottom starting back up. And so what would you say to someone that's probably listening to this, driving or maybe even multitasking or getting ready for the day, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I can see myself maybe ending up that way, and I don't want to." Like, what would you say to them?
Check your list. Where are you?
And then what?
And then decide if you're okay with the answer. Be honest about it. Really slow it down. Would you advise all of the people that you love so much and are giving so much to be last on their list? Would you be okay with that? The patients that you serve, the students in your classroom, your kids? Of course not.
Yep.
So, apply that. Even if you don't want to, and even if you're only doing it because Robin and Lisa are making it, you know what? Do it anyway. And just put yourself back on that list. Think about what you need, because joy begins with recognizing I have needs and I'm in a position to meet the things.
Yes.
Like so often we wait for someone to swoop in, especially the givers, because they're the ones doing all the swooping. So surely when we're depleted, someone's going to swoop in and save the day for us.
Yes.
And then we wait, and here we are. Then we're, upset with the people in our world for not noticing that we're in need. It's not their job. And when we meet our own needs, whatever they are, there's joy in meeting them. It's like you recognize that I have value by checking in and asking the question, what do I need? And when I do something about it, it's automatically going to help you to recognize that you're someone that matters and you're going to do something about it.
Yeah. And I think that couldn't be more true, right? It's like, check that list, notice if you're on it, and then what are you going to do about it? And that kind of goes back to, you said self-worth.
Yes.
And I always say the word self-respect.
Okay.
Like, it's good. Like, worth is so important. Respecting yourself is so important.
Right.
And, as givers, I can picture everybody getting those phone calls, helping everybody out like you and I have probably for many years. And then needing to be that one that needs to call too. And like, if you were to call someone today, and they were going to give you advice on what to do, you already know the answer, right? Like you already know, hey, I need to say no to this. I need to say yes to myself. And I would challenge everybody too to think about, when you're thinking about how to recharge, like what excites you? What brings you joy? Like how many times do we actually think in a day, oh, what brings me joy? What brings me alive?
Right.
And it's ironic that we're even talking about this. I did a speaking engagement last night, and that was the one thing one of the girls wrote down is like, we had them do a journal opportunity. And one of them said, I wrote down all the things that bring me alive. And as she's talking about it, she gets very theatrical.
Yep.
And I said to her, do you even realize that you just moved up a level, right?
Yep.
And it was all because she took a moment. She took a moment to look at her list that brings her alive. And then the biggest thing I told her now is, now what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. Yep. A list is one thing, but putting that list into practice is another. And so often the depleted givers of the world have great intentions, and they'll make that list, and then when they try, they feel guilty, right? That voice comes in that says you shouldn't because all of these needs around the world haven't been met. What right do you have?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are going for a walk when there's a war going on? Or, the list is so long, right? But the list will always be long.
Yeah.
And we will have needs that need to be met. And when we feel guilty about trying to do that, we need to stop in that moment and ask that guilt a simple question. And the question is, am I doing something wrong? Because guilt is a really beautiful emotion that's tied with wrongdoing. there is a purpose. Guilt is designed to stop us from doing something that we shouldn't. So the example I like to share is, if you're speeding through a red light and you feel guilty, guilt was appropriate. But if you are taking a 5-minute break at 2:00 because you checked in and that's what you need, and then you start feeling guilty and you say, am I doing something wrong? And there's nothing wrong, then you need to tell guilt where to go. Guilt shows up when it doesn't belong, and we allow it to speak so inappropriately sometimes.
Yes, we definitely do. And so when we think about joy and you think about confidence and having that recharge, so what would you say when you think of joy and how that helps you have your confidence recharge? How do those go together?
Oh, it goes together so beautifully because it's hard to go after things of joy and not feel more confident as a result. And it doesn't have to be a big flashy thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll share a quick story.
Yeah.
So, as we're talking about self-respect and worth and meeting our needs and stuff. So just a couple of days ago, my husband and I were looking at a new truck. And my husband had been talking to the sales guy before we arrived. And so when we got there, the sales guy greeted him by name and, hey, here's the truck. And I'm standing right there. And the guy never acknowledged my presence. It was only maybe a 2 or 3 minute period, but I was standing there thinking, am I okay with this? I'm checking in. What do I need? I need to be a part of this conversation. I have worth, respect me too. So I just stuck my hand out and said, hey, my name is Robin and I don't love being invisible.
I love you.
The poor kid, he was 25 and he apologized and he probably called me by name 10 more times in the course of our conversation and he learned a lesson, but I felt so much more confident. Lisa, I could have flown out of there and it was a simple, totally free, didn't take any time or money, but I felt like I had worth. I was way more confident after that little moment.
I am so proud of you for doing that. And I also know, even listening to your voice, it's not a direct, it's not anything. It's just a calming, hey, this is what I need in this moment. Yeah. And I think it's also an acknowledgement to the next person, right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I will not do that again.
That's my hope.
And the hope is too that he will now see everybody, right?
Yes.
He will, and in that moment, 2 minutes,
Yeah.
right? That's all it was 2 minutes, but now it's a lesson that someone will learn. And you learned. It's actually a lot of people learned throughout that whole process. Mm-hmm. And I think to your point, you have taking you back to those 6 weeks that you were on that break that you needed where you had to do the work again. I know for myself, confidence and joy has its peaks and valleys, right? There are days where I'm on top of this mountain, I'm climbing up this thing, even if it's muddy, but I'm not sliding down, I'm getting at the top. And then there's other times where that mountain just looks so big. How am I going to get to the top to have joy? And so share a little bit about your experience with your peaks and valleys because, we get to see you now.
Yeah.
Right? We get to see Robin, who's joyful, who's a joy coach. But I know that just didn't happen overnight.
Oh, no. And, I have the same list in my bathroom that I advise all of my clients to have, I call it a joy bucket list. What goes into your joy bucket? What overflows you so that you have all this to share? And I have it in my face for a reason because life is so busy all the time. It's so easy to not make it onto your own list. And so I'm mindful of it. I think it's really about being mindful. It's about being reminded. And so, there are days when I need those reminders. And sometimes it's quiet. It sneaks in. I don't realize that I'm in a funk. And then other days, something bad happens, a whole bunch of people die. And of course, you're going to feel awful on that day and joy isn't around. And so, but it can happen any way in between. And it's a matter of meeting your needs in the moment. When you're grieving, you just need to grieve sometimes. Yeah. And, but when that process has moved forward, how then do I get back to a place of joy? By being reminded of what brought me joy in the first place. And seeing, when is the last time I, prayed, if that's on my list? Am I doing the things that I say are important to me? And if not, maybe I could take a break right then and there and just dip into that.
I love that. And I think it's just, it's kind of going back to we're never going to have it all figured out.
No.
Right?
I wish we did.
And the more that we put ourselves on that list, the more that we get back up, I think too, right? Getting back up, taking care of ourselves, the easier it's going to get the next time.
Yep.
So if you keep sliding down to the bottom every time, I mean, imagine if you had those 6 weeks again, right? Like you don't want to go back to those moments. So you have to do the work so that you don't go back to that. And I always tell myself, like, I was on that bed rest for 1 week years ago when I was at my moment, and I was negative Nancy. I was that girl that you did not want to be around because I was like not joyful. And I remember that so vividly because I lost a lot of great friendships then, and just I had to relearn a lot. And I share that because I never want to go back to that. So if you don't do these joy moments, if I don't add these things into my life, I will be that person again. And that's not who I am.
This is prevention. It really is. Anybody with any kind of illness that could have been prevented will tell you, do whatever you can do to prevent this, whatever thing it is. And those moments are exactly the same, right? I mean, we can't avoid them completely. Life is going to be up and down. I went in one time to our local newspaper office, and they said, what's it like being the face of joy and never having a bad day? And I was like, let's talk, dude. I mean, that's just not realistic.
Yes.
And so we need to know that from the start, but we also need to know that these things ebb and flow and that we can do the steps, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it is just as simple as a 5-minute joy break. Know what brings you joy in the first place. And, you know, the depleted givers that I work with so often don't even know, right? Like all they know is giving is their source of joy. But there have to be other things.
Yes.
The longer the list, the better, because there are going to be times when those things don't speak to you and you need options. And it can be hard to come up with those options, but do the work, give it time. I actually have a list, like kind of a jump start little kit, if you will, just to get people to think about these things. And it's a list of 10 unexpected joys, things that might trigger something in you. And if they don't, they might trigger something else that's similar that you might not have written on your list. So I give that away to all of my audiences because if nothing else, like let's get a starting point and let's go from there. So start with giving if that's your thing and add to your list. But yeah, that's over at joytotheworldcoaching.com.
Awesome.
/joy list.
And we'll definitely share that as well. Because I think when you were talking about joy, what was coming to my mind too was, when's the last time I belly laughed? And when I can think of that moment where it's that uncontrollable laugh. And there's this moment about 2 years ago. I mean, definitely I've had some belly laughs since then, but we were playing pickleball and it was me and my husband, my fiance at the time, just learning, right? We were the youngest ones, and I have never laughed because we were learning, right? And we were having fun, and we were playing.
That's so important.
Right? We were playing. We got to be completely like I wasn't Lisa Tarkington of X company. I was just me. I wasn't having to serve anybody. I just got to be in the moment. And I think being present, and I didn't feel guilty, to your point, like that guilt back to asking yourself, well, what did you do wrong or anything like that? Like those things creep up. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. And so thinking about joy, it's also about thinking, what brings me to be fully present, that all of the distractions of the world kind of go to the wayside for a little bit, because that is when I find pure joy sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, I have so much joy in my job and my career, but those are the things that I remember is like, oh yeah, I remember at work when I was joyful, we were high-fiving each other. We were like, oh yeah, let's go do this as a team. In my personal life, same things, right? Like finding those joys in those little moments. And what you said about the 5 minutes really sticks with me, because that's what I teach all the time is like, I'm not asking you to take 3 hours out of your day to find joy. If you can, that'd be awesome. Right. But that's not really easy for a lot of people that are busy and the givers, right? So Robin, to kind of wrap up today, what is your final piece of advice or tools that you would give to our audience?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is to consider how your own needs line up on your priority list. As you think about how you want to spend your day, just focus on this day. Just enough light for the step I'm on, right? Let's just dig into today. Take a look at where you are on your list and how you can move up a little bit, even if it's 5 minutes. And by the way, studies back that's enough. So we don't have to go too crazy. And then implement that. And don't stop there though. Like, let's say you add something for 5 minutes. Maybe it's, turning on music from your high school days and dancing around the kitchen. and you feel great. The next step is tell somebody about it. Because chances are there's somebody else that needs to hear that message, and you have just reinforced, I did this thing and it was good for me and it felt good. And I always say it feels good to feel good. We need to do that without feeling guilty. So do that thing, share it with somebody else, cement that was a good move until you've kind of got those new neural pathways going in your brain that prefer that route over this guilty route. But it's a muscle that you're strengthening. So expect that it will come and go and be easier and harder on certain days, and that you're worth it. Do the work.
You are worth it. And that is so true. And so some key takeaways that I just took from our conversation today is when you're feeling that guilt and you need that recharge, ask yourself, like, well, what am I doing wrong? And if you're not doing anything wrong, take that moment. Mm-hmm. Another one is put yourself on the list. So today, when you get your to-do list out or your week to-do list, I want you to add your name. And the other one is there are going to be peaks and valleys in your life. There are going to be moments where you might be struggling, but it's about picking yourself up, adding that joy into your life and knowing that you are worth it, because we each are worthy of having joy in our lives, having confidence, and living our best life. So Robin, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I did want to share that Robin has a book. So if you want to grab that book and show everybody.
I knew we'd forget it.
Yes. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about this book.
Yeah. I mean, the book is written for real people who have messy lives and want joy anyway. And so it's called Messy Joy. It's on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. But basically, it's a collection of real life moments that hurt and where joy was found. And there are over 200 journal questions scattered throughout the book. Readers can really learn about their own relationship with joy and learn about the step-by-steps, where am I at and what am I going to do about it? It's all in the book.
Amazing. And we'll add that into the description of the podcast as well. So thank you again for being on. And to everybody listening in or watching us, continue to spread love and kindness to everybody that you meet and go recharge yourself to have confidence in a joyful life. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Confident Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow the Confident Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and share it with those who might benefit. Also, if you are looking to work one-on-one with me, message and follow me on Instagram at Lisa Tarkington Official. Stay confident, stay inspired, and until next time, keep striving to be the best version of yourself. Take care.